Yes, 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 yes. Got like 15 minutes, man, that I'm gonna give y'all right now. I know a lot of y'all are gonna come back, so I want you to get ready and spend some time with me this evening. So, yeah, this is your little lunchtime tea, man. I just want to everybody know I hadn't forgot about y'all. That I'm still on the ground, boots on the ground, working for you. So make sure that you come in and share, whether you like the video or not. One thing I want to do, I want to ask my people that's listening. I'm going to create a name for my cast of characters. I have Batman and Robin up there, Parchment, that are in charge. So I want y'all to, from SMCI and the eight big places that are in the system, like Walnut Grove, SMCI, CMCF. Those of you who work there, man, come up and give me some names for them. Let me know. You know what I mean? But keep it in line with some of our action figures like Hulk or whatever names that you feel like. So hey, Ruby, how you doing? So good. What's up? What's up, Ward? How you doing? Good to see you. Good to hear from you, man. Still looking to hear from you about that trip out there. Um, so I can come see. Man, we got so much corruption in Mississippi. Ward, I need some help. You know what I mean? Just this morning, I'm gonna start with SMCI. We had three officers to get arrested, a captain and two other officers for being corrupt and bringing in contraband. But let's go back a little bit further. 2 years prior to that, a warden was investigated for making racial comments, and it was a white officer that reported him to CID, and they did nothing about it. You know what I mean? I know we still say, I know Warden, you like to say it's not black and white, it's stupidity, it's ignorance and stupidity. Um, but when you can feel comfortable with calling people the N word around your coworkers, when you're referring to us as African American, I just think that you have a problem. You have an internal problem with yourself. You know what I mean? And Mississippi is completely different. I've been halfway around the world, man, and the racism here, the level of disrespect is at an all-time high. I don't know if it's because Trump served 4 years and they're hoping to get him back in through all the circumstances, but I just think that we're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to racism. But long story short, the warden was reported to CID for making racial insensitive comments about another coworker using the N word. And in the interview, he admitted that he used the N word several times and he was never terminated. Yet and still, the young lady that reported him was terminated. So I think that that's ridiculous and unheard of. And the same thing happened with the superintendent down there. Uh, he was investigated. He was investigated for making racist comments, and they investigated him, and he admitted that he uh, unintentionally used the N word several times around his coworkers, but he wasn't referring to any specific people, so they let him keep his job. And so I just find that mind blowing that in 2024, somebody who's supervised to so many people, with 80% of them being African American, with SNCI, it's probably like 30% because it's predominantly a white institution, a white run institution. So I think that them being down there in South Mississippi, where there's not as many African Americans, and we have majority of the good old boy system, because here in Mississippi, this is the only place, the only state that allow a superintendent to have his wife to either be his secretary or somebody important in his administration. How can you run an institution and not be biased if your wife is working right beside you? Because if an inmate or another staff disrespect them, of course you're going to take your wife's side. Right and wrong is no longer even in the equation. It's about you protecting your loved one. You know what I mean? So I think that our system has laxed to the point to where we let our supervisors have their wives work beside them. And it's not only happening at SNC, it's happening at Parchman too. So we have two prominent figures, Batman and Robin, And then they have their counterparts, their wives who work there right alongside them at that institution in major jobs and high paying jobs. They created positions and they said the state don't have any money with it because they just took a few months ago, they took the 10% from the officers that they were giving them for working in a hostile environment. They just arbitrarily took that. You know what I mean? But you don't have any money. Yet and still you got 8 positions that you created, and specifically the one at Parchment where nobody ever made higher than $80,000. Did the research. You can go back and look. None of the wardens made higher than $80,000. None of the superintendents. And now you got a superintendent that's sitting that's making at least $130,000 a year. So that's $50,000 more than anybody prior to him. More than Turner made, more than Epps made, more than Morris made. More. So you talking about $50,000. And the situation is worse now than it was then. You understand what I'm saying? So what he's getting doing? He's getting paid to F up the place. He's getting paid to put his foot on our necks as African American. What is he doing? That he deserves a $50,000 a year pay when there's no money. You know what I'm saying? And how can his counterpart work for another institution within the state, being MAGCOR, and be allowed to take minutes at a state meeting? MAGCOR is a whole separate entity, a whole separate pay. So why are you sitting in my meetings, our staff meetings, taking notes? You work for a whole different department in the state. That's just like somebody from ATF coming into a meeting with the FBI and taking notes. Serve no purpose. You have no reason to even be there. So I just think that we need to be mindful. We need to be really mindful, man, of where our taxpayer dollars are going. You're taking the money from officers. You don't let them get paid. You arbitrarily change their shift, and they're not compensated. You tell them in the system they're set from 7 at CMCL, for example. The shift was set from 7 to 7, but you were requiring officers to come in at 5:45 so they can start work at 6 o'clock after muster. All right. All those officers were getting an hour overtime every day that they came in. Some of the officers were drawing out checks in excess of $5,000 to $8,000 a month because they were getting overtime because their shift commander told them to come in at 6 o'clock. So the system, when they clocked in, the system automatically paid them for an hour of overtime. So at the end of the cycle, the fiscal year, they worry about the money. You have officers that made $2,000 and $3,000 a month in excess of their normal paycheck. You know what I mean? So it wasn't paying them because it's set for they had a 12-hour set for their pay. So they were getting paid roughly $2,000 to $3,000 a month extra of their normal salary. You know what I mean? And nobody knows that. So now they come back because they don't have any money. They take the 10%, and now you got officers who say like case managers and regular officers who work transportation. They're being screwed over. They still working. You got people still going into 29. You got people still going into quick bed at CMCF. You got people still going into Walnut Grove in these hostile. What's up, baby? Going into these hostile environments, and you take that 10%. Let me give you another thing. You got uh, let me move up a little bit in the state. Let's come up to Walnut Grove. You got Warren Dykes that used to be a quick bed at CMCF. He left there to take Sistrunk place. Sistrunk tried to retire. He tried to, and I have nothing against him. You know, but I can't say anything good about him, can't say anything bad. So his scales is balanced. I don't have anything bad to say about him because he's always treated me fair, and I've always seen him to act fair and impartial to everybody else that I've been around. You know what I mean? Not saying that he was always right, but you know, this is just some things that I want to say. He tried to resign after a couple of inmates escaped. They wouldn't let him resign. So what they did was Batman down at MDOC brought him up there after the man was trying to resign because he felt bad that somehow 2 offenders escaped on his shift and he wanted to resign. He felt like he was no longer qualified. He had too much stress and they had too many things going on at Walnut Grove. So they didn't let him resign. They brought him back to Parchment where he left from as director of CID before he went to Walnut Grove. They take Dyke from quick bed at CMCL, put him over at Walnut Grove, and they tried to give him an order to do something outside of the SOP. Uh, he refused. They called and terminated him. He got his lawyers involved. He's right back at CMCF now. He was terminated, and 1 week later, he was rehired because the lawyer said, nah. You know what I mean? Just like I told you a week ago that there was going to be some breaking news about our deputy. Well, it's been rumored. It's been rumored to the that he was going to be arrested. So, in order for him not to be arrested, the only way they can arrest you if you're in a state position, especially a high position like that, you have to be under a doctor's care. So when they came looking for him to serve him the warrant downtown, he goes on medical leave. He went on medical leave, checked into a treatment center, and because he was in a treatment center, they couldn't fire him and make it public, quote unquote, saying that he was fired. And you can Google it; it's going to be public record, man. You know his name, Stephen Chambers. You can look him up and see everything going on around him. But there's a lot going on. I got some more tea for you about him in a minute, but not today. I'm gonna say it for a later date because it's a bombshell. But they allowed him to resign for committing a heinous crime against another staff member, allegedly against another staff member. But it's going to be public record, and you'll be able to see it for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. I told you that he was going to no longer be there. He should have been arrested. His name should have been on TV like they do all of us as African Americans. As soon as something happened, you put us on the TV. You put us in the newspaper, and you blast us on the screen like we're the low and the scum of the earth. Yet and still, for your quote unquote white counterpart, you take them and you give them grace. Oh, you can come on, resign. You pat him on the back, and that's it. You let him move on. Back to CMCL. I told you the story about the lady who worked for the Reentry Academy, Miss Lundy, Dr. Lundy. Well, Dr. Lundy supposedly allegedly had an affair with an inmate before she went there, before he went there. So she sought out to get a job there when he was there. He was in one of the programs that I had, and she started work there, and she was bringing him, quote unquote, what the prison called contraband. She was terminated. Her picture was put on the front gate. Her picture was sent out all over the state. You know what I mean? For her not to enter the institution again. Well, this happened on a Friday. Sunday morning, another officer who was in a high ranking position, who was also not of my color, but way, way, way lighter than me, went to take the paper down, and she was allowed to go back in after she had been terminated and to drop off a package to this same individual. You can go look on my page and you can find the story. Well, long story short, a week later, after she was terminated, she comes back in her personal vehicle and nothing is done to her. She comes in and out of the prison, stay for a little while, and leave. Exactly 1 week later, same time, same place, same staff at the front gate, gate 1 and gate 2 at CMCL. She goes back in and she's approached by the highest ranking member there at the institution, which we know is the superintendent. And she wasn't arrested. You've been terminated and you came back twice. You've been on camera and you came back twice. And nothing happened. No arrest, no nothing. Go home. You made a mistake. I'll see you later. You know, just go home. Don't come back to this institution. Or next time, after you came back twice, you wasn't arrested for having an affair with an inmate. And you knowingly, both of y'all admitted to having sex in your recorded phone calls and in your text. You were sending him pictures, but you weren't arrested. It's automatically a rape charge. Automatically. Unequivocally, you can't get around that. Okay, aside from that, you are allowed to come back in twice after this, and nothing still happened to you. Yet and still, you had a young, light-skinned African-American girl who was secretary at the training center at CMCL, a CID officer who was mad at her because she broke up with him because he was abusive, go and tell his boss that they need to watch her because she's allegedly supposed to be having a relationship with a guy from her hometown. Now, mind you, now there's no officers there who's from Jackson or from anywhere else in the state of Mississippi that's not going to meet somebody that they know. It's up to them if they want to do a memo, and then you know you're not going to do right. And I just don't believe that this young lady that worked at the training center with two of the most highest respected officers at the training center would even allow. Yeah, I'm not saying that she didn't know the guy because I've met people that I know. Then how can you do that? But you fire her based on allegations from a disgruntled boyfriend who works CID. He can paint the picture, man. Like they say, the feds can indict a ham sandwich. I can make that ham sandwich criminal if I want to be. But yet and still, let's do this. You said that she knew him and she didn't report it, so you let her go. Okay, she wasn't on probation. You know, you should investigate and see if anything, reprimand and gave her a couple of days off, and then tell her or have him move. But how can you do that when the superintendent who's at MDOC now, when he was here at CMCL back in 2022, when his daddy was here at the same institution? There's no way a father and son is supposed to be at the same institution, especially if the son is running the institution. Man, I'm gonna automatically give my dad special privileges. And those same inmates that he had being the caretaker for his fathers here are on special detail at MDOC right now. You ain't got to take my word for it. Some of you who work for the state, man, look it up. Look it up. His daddy was right here in B building, B1 on B zone. You ain't got to take my word for it. Some of you who are on, who work there, you can look it up and you can Google it. They were at the same institution. You know what I mean? That's criminal in itself because he should automatically, immediately, first of all, stop his father from coming there. You know, even though that's the transit center, just like Oklahoma, when you go through the feds, everybody has to come through CMCF in order to go out to the outer camps. Once he went through the outer camp, got in process, he should have had him moved to another facility, whether it was a TWC or anywhere else. But you let him stay there, and you assign different inmates that are the same color as you to care for him the whole time he was there. And in return, when you get the job in North Mississippi, you bring those same guys down there and you put them on four-wheeler, and they're your eyes and ears of the institution. They tell you everything that the staff is doing, but they don't tell you what they're doing. Of course, you know. You come in and say you don't want anybody else in the guest house when Booker and a couple of other offenders who were black used to go there and wash their clothes every Tuesday. You say you don't want them because you was living there until they finished your house. Yet and still, LaFone and a couple other guys that worked with him were allowed to come up there and still wash their clothes, who were white. So it wasn't good enough for the blacks to come up to the guest house, but you let the whites still come up, the white inmates still come up there. So when are we going to stand up, take a look at ourselves in the mirror and see when we're going to stop getting oppressed? Yes, Warden, I think that it's a mental thing, but in Mississippi, man, it's obviously black and white. It's obviously black and white. Because at every institution, you telling me, at every institution, all of the eight major state institutions, that no African American is qualified to be warden, that no African American is qualified to be deputy warden, deputy superintendent or deputy superintendent at neither one of these institutions. Man, you created a position. You created a position at Marshall County. You took it from a warden there at MSP at Unit 30, and you gave it to a person, a warden, a white warden who came to Marshall County when you redid that, when the state took Marshall County back over. You took key pins and gave them to white staff at Marshall County from MSP. You took them. You didn't take one from not one person who was white. Every pen you took and gave to Marshall County was taken from a black person and given to a white person. It wasn't taken from a black person to give to another one. If they didn't have money to run their own facility that they have, why would you take over another facility? You know what I'm saying? And so, man, we just got to be mindful of the things that are going on around us every day. There was one more thing I wanted to say about uh, Central Mississippi. There was Just like now, you had two inmate deaths yesterday. You can see that on the news. One died at quick bed, from a drug overdose, and they took him out in the fire truck, not the ambulance, not the go. First of all, he was dead in the unit. He had been dead a couple of days, according to the inmates. But you take him out, you take the fire truck and take him out, take him just outside enough, close to right there by where MagCore is, and you take him out of the fire truck and you put him in a van. You shouldn't have moved him until the coroner came and pronounced him dead. Just like when I was there, you let a dude, Woods, lay in the hallway. He died the day before. You let him lay in this bunk. When the inmates got tired and scared because he had been in there and rigor mortis had set in, they reported to the staff. They beat on the door. They came. They took the inmate and laid him in the hallway. When the coroner refused to touch him or pronounce him dead. They said the institution doctor would have to, and walked off and left him in the hallway. So we had an offender that died that laid on the zone, on C zone, a day and a half and part of the night. Well, probably about 34, 35 years old, white guy, and part of the night, laid in the hallway with a sheet over him in the hallway. Officers afraid, inmates terrified. So when are we going to hold those people who are in power responsible for the things that are happening deep within our institution? Because he's giving so much power to the people who are at those institutions that he take their word as golden. No matter what they say, everything that they say is golden. Even when they inflict more harm on all the staff within the institution, all I can say, no, this didn't happen. This is what I did. It's golden. Man, they lie too. You know what I mean? They abuse state funds too. You don't have any money, so you say you don't have any money, but you got inmates going to buy gas so that they can ride around on the institution. No inmate should be driving their own personal truck or van unless he's maintenance or something. He's supposed to be accompanied by a supervisor then. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be on a detail with the supervisor. But you got these people up at MDC, at MDOC, calling in their own count. At Unit 33, these same people that he brought that used to care for his daddy down here at CMCF, you got them down at MDOC calling in their own count when they're supposed to be assigned to Unit 26, Unit 28, and Unit 25. But they're at Unit 33, which is not even really a unit, and they're calling in their count. It's a room that they put cubicles in, that they put partitions in, and it was the storage for the canteen. You take it, you give it a name, you get state funding for it. And I keep telling y'all, man, the state auditors, I send them the thing, do an audit of all the inmates who are supposed to be at their respective institution, MDOC, CMCL, East Mississippi, SMCI. All of them have on books more inmates that are actually there. And where these inmates are, they're in the private jails, they're out, but they get $20 a day severance for each one of these inmates every day. So they're getting more money from the state than they need because those inmates are not there. They're in the county jail. Man, they're so far behind on their light bill in CMCL that during the storm, one of the officers hit a pole and the pole fell. And they couldn't even fix it. They couldn't fix the pole because of the energy refused to come out and fix it because they're so far behind on their utility bill. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just want you to think about that. You're so far behind on your utility bill that you couldn't even pay for the people. So you had to contract it. You had to contract it out of state. You had to get somebody out of state from Arkansas to come in to fix a problem here in the state of Mississippi. When energy in our own utility company in the state won't fix it because you're so far behind on their bill. And then how can stuff be ordered from here? You had guys just took their GED test last week, right? The state is supposed to pay for them because the state have to proctor those tests. They pay for those tests. I mean, the guys took their tests and they couldn't even submit them because they didn't have the money to pay for those guys taking the test. You know what I'm saying? You have to pay for those tests. When they take those high state tests, they're paid for. Guys took the test, they can't get their GEDs because the state didn't have, allegedly, didn't have the money to pay for it. You know what I mean? And so I just think that we're misdirecting, our focus. We need to hold these people accountable. But you're making $50,000 more than any other African American superintendent prior to you. Before you're making $50,000 more. After you shot a guy in the head in 2019, and in the back of the head in 2019 during the ride, you were verbally reprimanded. Nothing ever happened, and now you're the superintendent at that same institution. After you um, supervised an institution where you kept your father there, until he passed away, and after he passed away, you left and went down there. You know what I mean? And so we're just doing ridiculous stuff that's in the eyes, like, man, even from you giving the dog the certificate for employee of the month, which is totally a gross disrespect to your people who work there and to the moral attitude of your people who work there. But you want to take it back and then give it to another lady. You want to take it back and present it to another lady. Man, I wouldn't want nothing. You know what I mean? If you figured the dog deserved it more than me the first time, then why would you want to come back and give it to me after there's a public outcry? You know what I mean? And give it to me later on. Uh, Let me tell you something. Let me stop off at Delta for a minute. You had a superintendent who was taken and allegedly, but I'll show you the picture. It's not allegedly because you got the Dollar General sign and you got the hotel sign in the picture. But you got a superintendent that was allegedly taking another female inmate out that she was having an affair with, and she took her out 16 or 17 days in a row. And when staff reported it, when the African American staff reported it, 2 weeks later, the African American staff is let go. 4 days later, you forced the superintendent to resign, not arrest her, not take her to jail, but you forced her to resign, her and the deputy superintendent. When their transfer is cut, where she took the girl to Jackson to get married to another female, where she kept her out overnight to stay at her house and brought her in before the 5 o'clock count in the morning, when she was taking her to the hotel uh, to spend the night with, or to spend 4 or 5 hours with, when she was taking her to Dollar General, and she wasn't coming out with the bag, but the offender was coming out carrying the bag and with the stuff that she wanted. So when is there going to be a political oversight? Or when are the people in charge going to hold those people responsible? You terminating the person who had the courage enough to stand up and tell you, hey, this is what the superintendent is doing. She's saying she don't need no transfer, but she cuts the transfers anyway to make sure. She said, well, I'm gonna cut the transfer because that's what the policy says. The any inmates that leave this, in case something happened on the road, in case she's hurt, in case she's killed. But and still, you fired the woman that told on the superintendent. You know what I mean? Before you let go of the superintendent. You know what I mean? Just like you let the person. And then how about this? They just gave a state employee of the month. They just gave it to a CID director named uh, Dolan. Well, Dolan, Mr. Dolan, CID, he was charged from 3 different institutions with fraternization and harassment. You know what I mean? Under CID Director Chambers. 3. After he lied, and after they saw him on camera at the institution in his plain clothes, trying to talk to a white female there, and when she reported it, nothing happened. He just said he was down there on investigation in his plain clothes. Didn't do no investigation, didn't interview anybody, but went to see her after she told him, that she wanted him to leave him alone. But you just gave him Employee of the Month for the state. You know what I mean? You just gave him Employee of the Month. You're talking about a person that's that was investigated at three different institutions for fraternization and sexual harassment. Formal complaints that's been filed and put in your lap, but you still let him go. You still give him employee of the month. So what you're telling me is that you're rewarding bad behavior. You're rewarding systematic racism by your upper level staff. You know what I'm saying? And yet and still, when you got people who come in and give their all every day, it's like you just, you piss on their head and you tell them it's raining. Rain is not yellow, man. And you're not anybody's daddy, man. Stop saying that in the meeting. You know what I mean? You get your people and I get my people, and we can meet and talk about it. What are you saying? What are you saying? When back in the day, if a group of white people said, well, you go get your people, I'm gonna get my people, they were going to get their guns to lynch the other half of us. You understand what I'm saying? So what are you saying now? What does that mean in 2024? Break that down to me, Batman, and tell me what that means. What does that mean when you tell a group of African American men and women that you supervise that you're their daddy? If they don't like it, they can get gone. Are you their daddy putting them out your house? Is that your house or is that the state house? You know what I mean? I just want to know. You pay the taxes on it, you own the land, you know. Of course, you were appointed by somebody who turned a blind eye to everything that you had done at CMCF to run that after they fabricated evidence. And because you had a person under you who was a different gender and a different color, and you didn't like the way they did, so you had her removed. You had her removed by the new CID director. I want to know this, that if jobs with the state are supposed to be posted, every job, we're going to start at the top first with the CID director because he's the quote unquote the police for the whole state and all the prison institutions. If you post a job that's open, why have people go through the process of applying for the job when the person you chose, you had him a month earlier in a state vehicle and he went to every institution over a 3-day period. He went to every institution in the state over a 3-day period a month before you opened the job for people to apply for. So why have people to go through and apply for a job when you've already chosen the person that you want to put there? And he came from the FBI amid racial allegations that you were only promoting white people in the state within the FBI. He came because he also had a drinking problem. He was an alcoholic and he couldn't stop his drinking. You know what I mean? So whether he either got forgiven DUIs or anything else within the state. So I just want to know, why post a job when you had already chosen him to come into the job knowing his history? And then he comes 4 or 5 months later or a year later and do the exact same thing that he did at the other organization. You know what I mean? When I told you, when the man lied to you and said, this is your first time meeting me, when I told you the man stood in front of me and told me that that he wanted me to tell on some officers or whatever, and I told him, man, do your job. And they kept me in the shoe for 19 months. That was against the law then, and he committed perjury. But because he's his lily white so-and-so, you take his word for it. You know what I mean? You take his word for it. You know what I mean? And I told you then that the man was a crook. And the man had an ankle problem. And so now you see, I told you face to face, not behind his back, in front of him and face to face, that the man had an ankle problem and he's a liar. You know what I mean? And so now you see, but you want to let him slide out because maybe he knows too much. You let him slide out under the guise of resignation when criminal charges should have been filed against him and he should have been escorted off like you escort every African American off and put their signs up or put their picture up in the state paper. You know what I mean? But you let him slide out in the good graces. You know what I mean? You let him slide out in the good graces. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when are you going to stop being the puppeteer through those 8 white superintendents, those 8 deputy superintendents, 7 white deputy superintendents, and stop oppressing us as a people. You know what I mean? And how can you let at CMCL, the only person that has access to the golf cart, all your people on special detail got a golf cart. They're not allowed to pick up staff. They can only pick up people, case managers and counselors, and take them to the unit. No other staff that's coming to work, no matter how long they've been working there, no matter what their age is, no matter what the weather is, that they can't pick up anybody but a case manager or a counselor and take them to work. But one of them just got caught in RNC, locked up with a nurse, your special detail, that stays out at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? They stay out to 9 or 10 o'clock at night and call themselves in for a count. So he just got caught with a nurse 2 days ago in RNC. You're not telling the people that. Or because she's white, you're not saying that she shouldn't be prosecuted or it shouldn't be told. You know what I mean? That he had free range on the compound. And he's supposed to be on special detail, but he's in nurse. There's no special detail that was needed in RNC in the nursing station. What you gonna do with the staff that caught him? You gonna terminate them too because they reported it? And is he even locked down? You know what I mean? Or did you say, good job, boy, I'll take care of it. Just keep your mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I'm tired. And like my girl said, man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? So when some of my people gonna get salad, when they gonna get sick and tired, man, and stand up and do a class action, put it together, and let's go, man. I see tonight so I can finish up with the state and with CMCF and East Mississippi and Delta. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of other things that are going on, man, around the state that y'all need to hear about. But that's my time, man. I gotta go, man. You got a chance if you're on here listening, man. Take the time out to like it. Take the time out to share it, so we can get the word out, man. That we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? Man, I love you guys. Y'all take care. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. But please make sure that you share it. Please make sure that you tell somebody that I see you this evening between 6 and 7 o'clock, maybe ish. You know what I mean? You know. Take care. God bless you.